This story is all about what happens when the storms come in our lives. What happens when a storm hits us? Last week I spoke about a storm as well, and you might notice a common theme amongst my stories at the moment. Now, this week, we were lucky enough to have my dad bring over a bunch of baby ducklings to our house. And Luca was able to cuddle the ducklings and say hello to the ducklings. And as Luca was looking at the ducklings, something happened. This fire alarm, the smoke alarm went off in our house. And it was really interesting because Luca immediately associated the smoke alarm with the ducklings. And he was looking at the ducklings going beep, 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 which didn't quite make sense. And so the next day, my dad was able to bring the ducklings over, and Luca was sitting there reading to the ducklings. If you got my dad on Facebook, you had to see that Luca was reading to the ducklings. But my story today is not about the ducklings, but it is about what happens when things get a bit wild. I want to introduce you to this particular type of chook. I don't have it up on the screen, but does anyone know what this type of chook is? It's a chicken. This is called a red jungle fowl. Now, a red jungle fowl is what we like to say in the chook world is the original chook. This is the chook that was probably on Noah's Ark. The red jungle fowl is the type of chook that all chooks, as to what we can work out to the best of our ability, are descended from. And so the red jungle fowl, and that's the hen, that's the rooster. Notice how the rooster's all colourful and pretty. What's the hen? Not as much. But the red jungle fowl is an amazing type of chook. They're what's called a hard feather, and their feathers aren't soft. They don't get wet that easily. The water kind of runs off their feathers. And what they do is they are able to live in all sorts of environments. In fact, there was, if you look up on the ABC, there was an article about a type of jungle fowl that lived on an island in Australia that was genetically diverse and was able to survive despite things going wrong. So they're a very hardy type of chook. Now, we kept some red jungle fowl for many years as I was growing up. And one day, the storm hit our house. And everything went wild, everything got crazy. And as we were trying to find all the chooks to round them up, our red jungle fowl hen decided that the answer to her problems was not to go into her house. The answer to her problems was to fly away. Has anyone here ever seen a chook fly? Do you think chooks can fly? Now, if you go into Google, Google will say that chooks can't fly. Well, let me tell you that Google is wrong because red jungle fowls can most certainly fly. And she flew all the way from our backyard, all the way to the top of the big gum trees behind our house. And she sat up there, and she sat up there, and she sat up there, and she waited. In our life, when we see mess going on and things going crazy, sometimes our first choice is to flee or to run away. We call this the fight or flight response. Right? When things go wrong, we choose internally whether we want to or not, whether we're going to fight or whether we're going to flight, whether we're going to respond to the situation or whether we're going to run away. And so as this little red jungle fowl, as she sat in the treetops, all the other chooks were safe. All the other chooks were warm. All the other chooks were in their house staying dry. But no, she was in the top of the trees, scared, hiding out. And now, eventually, she came home. But it wasn't the first time. At least 4 or 5 times we've had red jungle fowl fly away from us as soon as something goes wrong. Now, what do you think is good about a red jungle fowl flying away when things go wrong? What do you think it means? Does it mean that when a predator comes, they survive? Yeah. It means that they're able to survive on deserted islands when nothing else is able to survive. Trust me, the red jungle fowl will be there. So next time you see a chook, or if you go to Taronga Zoo and you see the red jungle fowl just wandering around, I want you to remember the fact that God has given us the ability to choose comfort or to choose safety in his arms when things go wrong. The ability to fight or flight, or more than that, to not be like the red jungle fowl hiding in the treetops, but to run to his arms and be safe in the chicken coop with all the other chooks. As you listen to my sermon today, I'm going to be talking about all sorts of crazy battles and wars. But the point of my sermon is this, is that God wants us to come to him when life gets crazy. Thank you for listening, boys and girls. You can go back to your seat.